I'd like to talk to you. Welcome to the ReadSoft online demonstration. We'd like to talk to you about AP automation in the cloud. This demonstration will cover the following areas: collection of invoices via email, paper, XML or electronically, data validation, invoices sent for approval or workflow, storage of invoices if required in the solution, and integration into ERP and financial systems. So just what are the business needs? Well, these can be varied from affordability to speed of deployment, zero infrastructure costs, guaranteed service levels of the solution, backup and disaster recovery included, and also the ability to work anywhere, anytime. So let's move on to the AP automation in the cloud. I'd like to take you through an overview of the solution. This will include loading invoices into the cloud, validating the captured data, workflowing an invoice for approval, and looking at the document in the storage solution. First, I would like to show you the user's home screen. This gives the user a view of what is being processed through the solution. This only shows documents that the user has rights to see. This shows you invoices that have been received by the solution, invoices awaiting validation, any invoices rejected, invoices awaiting approval, and the total invoice being processed at the current time. Now let's load some invoices into the system. I'm using PDF documents for this demonstration, but you can load invoices via email, electronic files, direct scanning from a pre-configured network scanner, or by scanning paper documents and loading them into the cloud. Here are the invoices we loaded, processing in the system. This is done automatically in a timely manner. Now we will move on to the data validation part of the automation process. If we look at the user's home screen, we can see there the invoices have moved to the Verify section. Now let's verify a document. Here is an invoice for Speedy Parts. As you can see, there is a warning. It is saying that there is no delivery cost associated with the invoice. In this case, it is okay and we can accept the warning. You will now notice that all the values from supplier to line item information has been captured and displayed for the user to verify. Now that everything has been checked and any alterations needed have been made, the OK button has become activated and we can accept the invoice now. You can see that the invoice for Speedy Parts has now gone from the Verify list. Now let's look at approving an invoice. Let's take the scenario of a company that, depending on the value of an invoice, needs to have multiple approvals to approve the invoice. The invoice from Speedy Parts that we will be following in this demonstration will start with the accounts clerk. Let's call him Aaron. It will then be forwarded to Margaret, the accounts manager, and finally Diane, the operations director, for approval. Let's look at this first invoice. You can see that it is the Speedy Part invoice from earlier. You can also see that Aaron is the current approver, and this is why we can see it in Aaron's queue. Let's open the invoice. You can see that the invoice has automatically got the accounting coding assigned to it. This is because the system has seen invoices from this supplier before. It remembers the coding from previous invoices and applies it to the new ones, helping to speed up the coding process. The coding can be changed if it is incorrect. At the bottom you can see the workflow process that has been assigned to this invoice. Because of the value of this invoice, it needs to be approved by Aaron, then Margaret, and finally by Diane. When you are happy, you can then approve the invoice. If you would like to add a comment to it for other users to see, you can do this via the Comments tab here. Let's add a comment. This will now be available for users interacting with this invoice in the future. Let's approve this invoice. The invoice now disappears from Aaron's queue and moves on to the next stage of approval, which is Margaret. Now let's log into ReadSoft Online as Margaret. You can now see on Margaret's home screen that she has one invoice to approve. Let's select the invoice from Speedy Parts. As before, you can see the account codes and they can be altered if the user has permission. You can also see the Comments tab has an orange speech bubble. This is to warn the user that there is a message, which is the message we left earlier when logged in as Aaron. You can see the message, "Please check," and you can also see who added this comment and when. Margaret can now check the invoice and make sure all the information is correct. She can also check the history of the document. This gives a timeline of the processes that the document has been through and who has had interaction with it along the way. We can see that the invoice was approved by Aaron, and now Margaret is going to approve the invoice, and it will then move to Diane. The invoice has now disappeared out of Margaret's queue and moved to the next stage with Diane. Diane will then approve or reject the invoice. Then, when the invoice is fully approved, the data will be exported ready for upload to the finance system. The system also has the ability to store documents long-term. For example, invoices need to be stored for a minimum of 7 years. The system will allow your business to do just this and have 24/7 access to them as and when required. Back to the demo. Now let's click on the Storage tab. Here you can see a list of documents stored in the system. Let's select the top one. You can see the image of the document, but you also have the information captured from the invoice and its history. Integration is available for most major accounting and finance and ERP systems, such as SAP, Oracle, Sage, and Microsoft Dynamics. If your package isn't listed, please contact our sales department as new integrations become available all the time. So let's just summarize. The benefits include rapid solution deployment and seamless integration, easy-to-use system available 24/7, no support or hardware costs, high data security, and lower total cost of ownership. This gives you the savings of no infrastructure cost, a quick return on your investment, faster end-to-end invoice processing, and inbuilt disaster recovery and support. I hope that this has given you a good insight into how the ReadSoft online solution will work with your business, helping streamline your invoice processing and help save both valuable time and money.